Freedom Radio Hour. Live on Capital Radio 91.6 FM.
All right, everybody. Welcome to another edition of the Freedom Radio Hour. I'm your host, Adam Cruz, and I'm here with my fantastic co-host right here.
What up, beautiful people? Eddie Nicholas here, and we're so glad and grateful that you have decided to come and join us today here at 91.6 FM, the heartbeat of Sedan. DY Music Radio, y'all. Y'all know it. What's up, Adam?
I want to take a moment and let our listeners and our viewers know that the Freedom Radio Hour is here, not only being your source for fantastic music, but we're here to be your number one source for music, business, news, and trends from around the globe. What's up is that there is so much going on in the music business news, but I think the key word might be for today might be maybe hypocrisy or contrasting views. Let's break it down a little bit, all right?
Hypocrisy.
Yeah. So remember in a prior episode, we were talking about how Universal Music Group is maybe rumored to be going public in the new year. Going public means that Universal Music Group will become a publicly traded company. They will initiate an IPO, initial public offering, and so that you and I and all of us here within the country can participate in the stock market by paying into shares. You own some shares of Universal Music Groups, they go public. Now, there's a big implication about that because I think we should be aware of a few things. First thing out of the gate, we need to talk about Mr. Iovine. You know, Mr. Jimmy Iovine used to run what did he run? Let's see, Interscope.
Okay, and then the record label.
Yeah, and then he left to run Apple Music. Okay, so now he's been there 3.5 years running Apple Music, and it's funny how these little morsels of hints about what's up with the music industry in terms of the insiders comes out at these little summits and conferences. Oftentimes in these episodes, we talk about things that we notice or comments that come out as a result of panelist discussions at conferences, summits, and stuff like that. So this latest one came from Mr. Jimmy Iovine, who runs Apple Music now, which is one of the biggest streaming outfits in the world. And they caught him at a dinner in LA where he commented about the music business, but he was there in promotion for his 4-part documentary series called The Defiant Ones. Have you seen that? It's on HBO. It's really good. It's basically a parallel story of Jimmy Iovine and Dr. Dre, the rapper and the music mogul. The two of their stories and how they converged at a certain point to develop Beats Electronics. Anyway, he was at this dinner to promote the Blu-ray release and the digital release of this Defiant Ones. It's important to note that Defiant Ones first came out on HBO exclusively for several months, and now they are windowing, which is, you know, it's put up one place for a while, and then after a while it goes to another place and so on. So they're windowing the release of Defiant Ones, the documentary by Jimmy Iovine. First it went on HBO, and then later now it's available on other streaming outfits and on Blu-ray. So he's at this dinner and they're asking him about the latest regarding the music business. So I think it's important to know. Remember, this guy ran a record label for many years and brought it to prominence and then left there to run Apple Music, which is now the biggest streaming outfit in the world, arguably, right? He says a few things, 3 things I want you to be aware of as an independent artist. The first thing is he thinks that streaming isn't a real business in the long term.
What?
What do you think?
Think that too, but again,
why do you think that? Why do you think that streaming isn't?
We're snatching from air. We're snatching from air, and we're putting a monetary value on things that are in the currents of the airwaves. And that's why I always have a problem when we talk about these billions and billions of dollars. Yeah. All this money is sitting up somewhere in the air.
Yeah.
It's not sitting in a bank nowhere. It's sitting up in the air.
And to add to that point, I don't mean to interrupt you. My point to echo that is that we're also competing with free.
Yes.
We ignore the fact that there's these outfits like Spotify and Tidal and Apple Music that want your money every month, $9.99 a month. But those outfits are competing with free. What do we mean? You do a simple search for your favorite song on YouTube,
and it's available
for free.
For free.
So when you have a music business, a music industry that is that its biggest competitor isn't another streaming outfit, but it really is free, that's a big problem. So Mr. Iovine made the point that streaming isn't a real business, and it sounds like we're talking similarly about that.
And again, when we're talking back then, you'd hear, oh, this record went platinum because it sold X amount of daggone streams, or was played by X amount of streams and all of this type of stuff. It's the new calculator. But now you have these people that sit in these little think tanks. Well, how much dollar value can we put
on these things,
each of these streams,
right?
And that's where we get all this craziness.
And we also realize that the people that decide whether something has more value than another is really this arbitrary in a boardroom type discussion and decision making. Right? It's not like some natural, organic thing that's happening as a result of the market responding to music. No, this is people
sitting up in a boardroom
talking about, I think we need to, for Billboard #1 hits, for example, we should add the streaming counts. But since we can't add them one for one, let's divide that number by 1,500 and then add it to the total amount. And that's your #1 hit now on Billboard, which is now fake. So, yes. So Jimmy Iovine's first point is the streaming music isn't real in the long term. He argues that the streaming outfits, the biggest in the world, including his own, which is Apple Music, they are selling something else
along with it. We'll be right back. 91.6 FM with some more news, music from around the globe.
That's right.
Wild Music Radio, y'all.
Come back with us, all right?
Freedom Radio Hour. Live on Capital Radio 91.6 FM.
What up, beautiful people, and welcome back to 91.6 FM, Freedom Radio Hour, DWildMusicRadio.com. We're going to get right back to the topic, and I'm sitting here with my wonderful co-host, the knowledgeable, the one and only, Mr. I'll let him introduce himself.
Mr. Adam Cruz, you make me laugh so hard when you do that. Oh, my God. I just laughed so hard. Thank you for tuning in. Before we broke, we were talking more about this music business game and the name of Mr. Jimmy Iovine's interview. He's a guy that runs Apple Music now, but before that, he ran Interscope to much success and popularity.
And you know what? Just not to build off top, when I hear the name Jimmy Iovine, I'm thinking he's some great big old orchestra leader working for the Metropolitan Opera or something like that.
Why? Because of the sound of the name?
The sound of the name.
Yeah. Well, anyway, Mr. Iovine was talking a few things at a dinner while he promoted his documentary series, The Defiant Ones. He made 3 major points. One we talked about before we broke, which is that streaming isn't this real long-term business. The second thing he wanted to talk about, which is funny, oftentimes Eddie and I talk about that by just organically, we happen to be in step with the current news just because we feel so passionate about it, and we're reading quite a bit about what's happening and paying attention. Second point he made, and you're going to smile at this, was that people aren't talking about how they feel enough. He said the songs that are out now are they want you to dance, they don't want you to love, they want you to have sex, but they're not talking about real issues. This speaks to our episode where we talked about whether we are politicizing the lyrics enough in house music. See, here at the Freedom Radio Hour, we love house music, but we like our house music a little slower in tempo, usually more vocal driven, a little bit more meaningful in the message. Do you think, now thinking to Mr. Iovine's comment, that part of the problem in the music game, besides the fact that streaming isn't a long-term business, is that the artists of today aren't talking enough about how they really feel? They're talking superficial.
No, I don't think many of them are talking superficial. Many of them are talking too blatant, if anything. Because a lot of the music that you are hearing today is, especially the R&B, is blatant with sexual, I'm not even going to say undertones. It's there.
So do you think it's like a lack of metaphors? Because, back in the day, you could talk
even
about these
metaphors.
topics.
They're telling you straight.
No.
I know what you're talking about as far as metaphors. No, it's nothing to leave to the imagination anymore.
Right, but that's what I mean, like the lack of metaphors in music now. Do you think we need to get back to more of that? Because there used to be like, you'd say other things to mean something sexualized, but you wouldn't really say it. It seems like you're talking about
the box.
It's out the box and right there.
It's out the box. Anytime, I know Sudan, so we're going to keep it clean.
Yes.
They're blatantly talking about people doing physical intercourse in many of these songs, and they're using the curse.
Okay, so this is one of his 3 categories. Iveen did say that most of the music you hear today, people are talking about they want you to dance, they want you to have sex, and they want you to talk about love.
So in that venue, I have to digress from what he said because they are talking about it.
Right, but what I'm saying is, he's saying because we're focusing on these 3 categories that I just said, we're not. Yes, but we're not talking enough about how we really feel, nor are we politicizing enough about, with our lyrics enough about what's going on. I say we because Eddie and I are artists. We write and release music, and we have a responsibility as those that create art to consider the climate around us. And are we not considering that?
This makes me think back to the scene in Dreamgirls, when one of the artists decided that he wanted to do a song that was socially conscious.
Okay.
In it.
And I remember that.
It turned out the person who ran the label, people aren't interested in what's going on socially conscious. They want the same things you do: sex, drugs, and rock and roll.
Right.
Basically, all that socially conscious stuff is out there, but it's not what the major labels are promoting and pushing. Like with our music, we claim we're promoting love, peace, and
unity, unity, and respect.
University and respect and all that in the house.
She said university.
Well, unity.
Yes.
Unity, university, whatever.
Yes. Well, listen, that's true because in house music they put it under this category, this acronym, PLUR: peace, love, unity, and respect. And oftentimes the lyrics reflect that acronym, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I do think that in the 2018, we need to politicize our lyrics more because there's power and there's influence in music.
You know, one of my favorite songs is 1960 what? But even though that's giving
Gregory Porter, yes.
If people really listen to that song, it's giving you the history of the assassination of Martin Luther King.
Well, this is Iveen's second point. Iveen's third point has to do with the fact that, let's see, streaming isn't a real business. People aren't talking about their feelings. And what was his third feeling he had? Let's take a break. When we come back, I'll get my thoughts together. But I think it's really telling that Iveen, being this juggernaut in the music game, being a person that runs Apple Music, has so much to say, just sort of inconsequentially as he's promoting his documentary that has everything to do with what we're covering here on the Freedom Radio Hour. I think Iveen really is dealing with what we deal with on the independent scale. Yes, if you think about it, because he runs Apple Music, he's always going to have this bias towards Apple Music or towards record labels because he did run Interscope. But I think a person of his stature has really something to offer in the way of what's going to happen in the 2018. Let's take a break. When we come back, I'll bring you the third point that Jimmy Iovine was talking about, and then we're going to talk about networking because I think it's an important thing in light of a recent event that Eddie and I were a part of. We'll tell you about it when we come right back.
91.6 FM, DY Music Radio, FreedomRadioHour.com. We'll be back.
Freedom Radio Hour.
And we're back live on Capital Radio, 91.6 FM, the heartbeat of Sudan, and on the web at dwaltmusicradio.com. You're deep in the zone right here on the Freedom Radio Hour. We're your number one source for music business news and trends from around the globe. Okay, so we got to bring up this third point that Jimmy Iovine mentioned in a dinner in LA recently while he was promoting his documentary called The Defiant Ones. I'm here with my partner here,
Eddie Nicholas. What up, people? Welcome back.
Yes. So his 3 points were that he didn't feel the streaming music business was a viable business in the long term. The second point he made was that people aren't talking about how they feel enough. They're not politicizing their lyrics enough in the music. It's too superficial. They want you to dance, they want you to make love, and they want you to talk about love.
And that's it. They just want people to have a good time.
Yes, but he's saying that this is adding to the problem that exists within the music business, according to him. The third problem, he said, I call it the Netflix argument. So he's saying that we're ignoring, as a music industry, the following fact. That is that Netflix charges customers $11.99 a month. In 2017, they spent $6 billion in original content. So there is a reason to go to the Netflix site, pay that $11.99 a month, because besides the material that's available on, say, Netflix, Hulu, Amazon, and the other media, TV, film streaming services, on Netflix, you're also going to get $6 billion worth of original content. But Iveen says, in the music game, there is no such equivalent. That means that whether you subscribe to Tidal, Apple Music, Spotify, or the others, they are all essentially offering all the same things. Initially, we talked about exclusivity. That was the model that they put in place. They, Streaming Outfits, of course, they placed this exclusivity model into play. And that was, if you sign up for one service, you got certain mega artists. If you sign up for another, you got another set of mega artists. But over time, that fell to the wayside, as we talked about in prior episodes. So Iveen's third argument is that, unlike Netflix, we don't have a place where we're placing all of that original good stuff in one place, as it includes the other stuff. So he's saying what we're doing here in music is charging people to buy the same thing that they can buy anywhere, and we're not dealing with the biggest competitor, like I said earlier, which is free. You're not dealing with that. So,
and you can't compete with free.
And the music, yes, and further,
and eventually everything becomes free.
Or that everything, because it's accessible. The right competitor becomes free, because his point is that we're not looking at things like, say, Netflix does, where they spend all this money on original stuff. That way you have all the reasons to go to that website.
To be the first to view it.
Yeah.
To be the first to get it.
And when these outfits are doing, if you notice, he says Apple Music sells devices. Okay? Amazon is selling Prime subscriptions. Spotify is selling subscriptions and
so when
ads.
Apple's selling devices, Apple also knows you're going to need to put stuff on those devices. So therefore, we're going to offer you this here.
Right.
So you don't have to go over here.
Yes, but conversely, what they're not doing is using music as the sole driver of their business.
It's the background music for their business.
It's a small part.
Small part.
And we've talked about this before, that there was an article where they equated this scenario that we're describing as the matches or the lighter that's sold at the counter of your local grocery store or bodega or 7-Eleven or what have you. That represents the tiniest portion of their overall business of that store, for example. So they're saying the music game now is dealing with similar problems. So Iveen made these very valid points, and it made me wonder, there used to be this idea that when you first launched as an artist, you wanted to tap into the community that is supportive of the music that you're producing, and that it was part of your job to therefore network with all these artists in your community. Eddie and I were recently involved with an event that we've co-hosted and put together with our station, DWAP Music Radio, entitled New Jersey Drive. What we did was invited artists from all over to come speak with us. We interviewed them, engaged with them, networked with them, and then it dawned on me whether there was still power in networking. Do you feel, as an artist, where you attend a lot of various events locally and abroad, do you feel like there is still value in networking?
There will always be value in networking. It comes to the point when those that have arrived feel that they don't want to share their contacts. And you have many individuals that are A-list artists that for whatever reason do not trickle down the networking that was provided for them to get to where they are. The cycle of music continues, and for those of us that are getting older, it's important that we reinvest in these younger people to encourage them, but also to keep a lot of ourselves in the spotlight.
Sure.
As an individual who is concerned and supportive of what's the next thing that is coming. So networking, to me, I will say, is a wonderful thing, especially with the advent of social media. You know, you're able to reach and connect with people from all around the globe. And at this given time, you need stuff like that, because you may not find something here or be able to work with somebody here in New Jersey, but with the vast universe to choose from, you always have the opportunity to work with others.
Right, I agree, and I enjoy the event because I was getting to meet artists that I don't normally interact with. So I really love that. But I think that overall, in light of the Iveen comments, the future of the music business is going to make us question and reconsider and rethink all of the normal traditional modes we use to build our business as independent artists. So that means you have to take stock and inventory of the value in not only networking, but the value in releasing music infrequently or frequently, depending on it. The value of aligning yourselves with the various labels versus, say, one label. Whether you are on top of your publishing administrative duties enough as an artist. So I think all of these things in the 2018 becomes more ever present and more important to consider. Because to Iveen's point, I think what we're talking about is a shift in the way we value music, a shift in the way we have to think about things, because the big companies out there are always going to make their millions and billions. But we are ignoring the fact that it's often initially off the backs of us musicians and artists so that they could jump and become this juggernaut. So we need to take that power back in the 2018.
And you know, with you saying that, it is all important that we take that power back, because the only one that's really going to make any investment in any of our futures is ourselves.
I agree.
Because if we don't do it, other people are looking at it and say, well, hey, they're not really doing nothing to put themselves out there, so why should I invest my coins or my time in listening or providing a venue for this person to do when they're not doing as much as they can, so people can see that they're doing as much for themselves as they would want other people to do in purchasing their music. And
on a basic note, in terms of a skill set, I think oftentimes we think that if we're artists and we're in a room with other artists, that automatically we're networking. We also need to educate ourselves on how to network, right? Because if we go to an event and you meet and greet and have a good time with an artist, it doesn't necessarily mean that you have networked in some way. Network entails doing
I'm
something.
Sitting here and I'm talking with Adam, and the next thing Adam says he's interested in doing such and such.
And I'm saying,
well, I have blah, 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 blah. Let me give you his number so that you can do what you need to do. You know, that's networking.
So network includes action. If you're just meeting an artist and engaging, that's beautiful. There's nothing wrong with that, but you're actually not networking.
No. And again, networking is if you meet an artist and you know this artist is traveling all overseas. Well, hey, how did you get the opportunity to travel overseas?
Right.
Who is the contact?
The entry points,
The entry points. Can you give me some information on how I can entry? That's networking.
Yes.
But again, you have those that can be very selfish. And when you do meet those people, you take what you can get and you move on.
Yes, that's all the time we have for today. Thank you so much for tuning in to the Freedom Radio Hour. Definitely check out EddieNicholas.com for more of his fantastic music. Check out DJAdamCruz.com for more of mine. Leave a comment under everything we're posting at FreedomRadioHour.com because we'd love to hear from you. And of course, if you're an Android or iPhone user, download our free app. We have all of our episodes. We have the audio, the podcast. We have the masterclass, merchandise, and music, all available right at your fingertips. Download the app. Search us out. Freedom Radio Hour for Android and iTunes users. Search us out. I believe it's on Google Play and within the App Store. All right. Have a great weekend and a great week ahead. We'll see you next time.
91.6 FM, the heartbeat of Sedan. DWildMusicRadio.com and FreedomRadioHour.com. Check it all out, y'all.
Exactly.
Peace and love.
Later.